Welcome, everybody, to the Fretboard Journal podcast. I'm your host, Jason Verlinde. We're going to be talking all about our new 59th issue of the Fretboard Journal's print edition next week. Today on the show, I am pleased to share with you the first of many exciting updates regarding our 2026 Fretboard Summit. Today, we're going to be talking to Andy and Adam from the Music Emporium. If you read the Fretboard Journal or listen to this podcast, you probably know all about the Music Emporium. It is one of the stores that is most closely aligned with the content and the people that we celebrate in our pages. And we've got something incredibly cool brewing with the Music Emporium for our Chicago Fretboard Summit. During this conversation, we talk about that, but we also talk about guitar retail, what they're working on, and so much more. It is one of my favorite retailers in all of the world, and so I think you will enjoy this conversation. Before I get to it, if you are listening to this and at all on the fence about the Fretboard Summit, let me just give you a quick pitch right now. The most amazing thing about the Fretboard Summit is not the lineup of players or that you can buy a cool piece of gear over the course of the weekend. It is the people you are going to meet. The summit is a 3-day circus of activities and workshops and fun. You may end up going home with your new favorite guitar, but you are also going to go home with, I promise, a whole bunch of new friends. So if you are sitting at home, maybe you are incredibly introverted. I consider myself introverted, believe it or not, even though I'm on this podcast every week. If you're worried that the summit is not your scene, or if it's just too weird or sounds too intimidating, please message me. Go message me at jason@fretboardjournal.com. Let me know what you think, because if I can at all sway you, I will. Tell me what music inspires you. Tell me your favorite gear makers. I will candidly let you know whether or not I think there is a good fit at the summit. I will happily introduce you to people, whether that's Bob Taylor of Taylor Guitars or just some player that I think you should know. I'm here to help. I'm your cruise director, whatever you want to call me. Jason@fretboardjournal.com. Reach out to me. This is an event that I truly want to be inclusive to everybody. You do not need to be a professional. You do not need to have a NAMM membership. You don't need to own $10,000 worth of guitars back at home. If you are listening to my voice every week on this podcast, you are my target audience for this event, and I want to see as many of you there as possible. So many of our guests are returning summit attendees. They go once and they are completely hooked and they realize this is like a family reunion of sorts. I want you in on the family. So reach out to me, take a chance, come. You will make friends for life. I will be your friend for life. You will also have a whole bunch of great memories and go home feeling so inspired about your favorite hobby. Rest assured when I tell you, this isn't just a bunch of people trying to sell gear to you. This is really a place where you can relax, meet people, try out gear, of course, maybe go home with gear, but more than anything, have fun and meet people who share your similar interests. With all of that out of the way, we are pleased to announce that thanks to the Music Emporium, today's guests, we are offering scholarships for people who want to attend the summit but maybe can't swing the 3-day registration fee. This is a program that I have been stewing on for a while, and thanks to the generous underwriting of the Music Emporium, it's going to happen. Maybe you are younger and just starting your career in guitar or gear. Maybe you are an aspiring professional musician. Maybe you go to a music school right now. Maybe you're about to take the leap into lutherie and attend one of these guitar making schools. Whatever your circumstances are, we want you to be able to come to the summit, to meet all these people I just described, and to have some fun and get inspired. So we're calling it the Pay It Forward Scholarship. The Music Emporium is underwriting it, and this is going to allow 10 people to come to Chicago, attend the summit in its entirety, including the evening concerts. Is a 3-day pass for 10 individuals who otherwise wouldn't be able to financially attend. Now, we can't cover travel fees, but if you can get to Chicago, we'll have you covered from 10 a.m. until basically 11 p.m. every night with incredible programming and stuff to do and concerts and all the things the summit is known for. Our goal here is, of course, just to make the summit as inclusive as possible. And I know there are so many young people out there who want to be in the gear industry, who would love to meet some of these brands, who would love to hear some of these concerts and otherwise just can't. This is your opportunity. In the show notes, there is an application. We're taking applications for the month of May 2026, and we're going to shortly thereafter choose the 10 individuals and reach out. So fill out the application. There's no age limit. We're not going to run a credit check on you or anything like that. We just want people who really want to be there to be there. And I think it is going to be a great weekend for everybody. Speaking of people who are going to benefit from the summit, my second big Fretboard Summit announcement is equally fun. Stephen Harrison is a local to me, Seattle-based educator. He's also a guitar fanatic. He's the guy behind Little H Collective, incredible musician as well. He has been to nearly every Fretboard Summit that we've thrown. At the last summit, he was talking to Wade from Three Bender and I believe Barry from Grez Guitars, and they are offering a Fretboard Summit session that will be free to the public for kids. This is going to take place August 22nd at 9 a.m. in a to-be-determined classroom at the Old Town School of Folk Music's campus. Wade and Grez and Steven and maybe some surprise guests will be fielding questions from kids, demonstrating a little bit of how a guitar gets made. There will be a hands-on component. No one's going to get hurt. No one's going to need a face mask or anything. This is just an opportunity for all of you out there who maybe bring your family to the summit, but maybe your family goes and does something else while you nerd out on guitars. Or maybe you have a kid who is just living and breathing instruments. This is an opportunity for them to ask the questions they want to ask without having to ask AI or some random person on the internet. There will be some incredibly talented professionals there, happy to show whoever shows up a little behind the scenes on how guitars are made. We're going to probably focus on electric guitars just to make it succinct. But if you have a kid who really wants to build an acoustic guitar, I am sure somebody there will be able to field their questions. Again, it's going to be 9 a.m. till roughly 10:30, right around the time the summit opens officially to everybody else. It's free to attend, whether or not you are coming to the summit. So if you know anybody in the Chicago area, if you're bringing your kid to Chicago for the summit, there's no age limit here. It's just for young people to have a safe space where they can ask questions, get inspired, and see how guitars are made. It's super cool. I can't thank Steven and Wade enough for thinking of it. We might throw some surprises between now and then in terms of new guests and new things that these kids can do. But at the very least, it's going to be a cool demonstration of some of the work that goes into a guitar and a Q&A where kids can feel like they can ask all the questions they wanted to ask. I am super excited about this. Obviously, we want the summit to just be a magical weekend for everybody, and it would be great to see some new faces and some younger people there and some people who may very well be the future of guitar, because that is the cool thing about this gathering. Last announcement. Totally trivial compared to the first two announcements. If there are any other runners out there, I think I'm going to have a 5K Friday morning, August 21st. So if anybody wants to reach out to me, again, jason@fretboardjournal.com, whether you're a runner or a jogger or just want to walk and chat with other people who want to get outside and be active, I'll make a 5K course. It'll be near the summit or maybe on the lake, and folks can kind of stretch their legs and kind of get some steps in before they nerd out on guitars for the rest of the weekend. I want to thank our sponsors, Peghead Nation, where you can learn to be a better player, whether you're a guitarist, a mandolin player, or a banjo player. Use the discount code Fretboard. You'll get your first month free. So many great Peghead Nation instructors have been featured on this very podcast. It just feels like an extension of what we're doing. I hope you will go check out what they are up to. And then, of course, here in Seattle, Washington, Mike and Mike's Guitar Bar, one of my other favorite guitar stores where you can find so many interesting guitars that were not on your radar, as well as many that probably are on your radar. Go check out their Substack too. mmguitarbar.com is where you can find them. Like I said, our next episode will be all about our 59th issue. I'm hard at work on issue 60 already. Our Fretboard Summit is taking place August 20th to 22nd, 2026. And today's guests, who you are about to hear, are Andy, Cambria, and Adam Dardeck of the Music Emporium. One of my favorite stores. I hope you enjoy it. Adam and Andy, welcome to the Fretboard Journal podcast.
Thanks so much for having us. Absolutely.
We are ostensibly talking about the Fretboard Summit, and we will get to that. But before that, how are things going at Music Emporium? I feel like you guys are like the gold standard of how to sell boutique guitars. I know lots of people in the industry, look at what you guys are doing as sort of trend setting. And so where are we at with guitar sales in 2026, guys?
Have we sold any guitars this year, Adam?
We're still trying to get up to our first one. But I think it's going to happen soon.
Layaway plan?
Yeah, exactly. It's got to close out that one layaway we've got going. Yeah. Wow, gold standard. I love that. That's great. The guitar market's healthy. The interest, amazingly, I think we get to the end of every year and it's like, wow, that was great. How are we going to do that again the next year? And then somehow it comes together, and but year in, year out, this year being no exception. I think there's remains plenty of interest in the boutique guitar world, in the vintage guitar world, and in the things that we've been fortunate to carve out our little niche and what we do here.
Yeah. And how do you guys divide, specifically you two? Like, what are your departments? Like, what falls under each of your purview?
It's such a complicated web. I'm
really
not even
is.
sure how to answer that question. I guess, Adam can speak about him. He's kind of like the GM at the store. He's kind of like oversees all of it. I think people sort of know me specifically as the vintage acoustic guitar guy and the one who does all of the sort of media production. So I kind of oversee all of that, whether it's videos, photography, social media, stuff like that, all the content stuff. I oversee all of that in addition to the vintage acoustic guitar acquisition and sales. And then I sort of ordering and management for a lot of the core acoustic line, Martin, Atkin, et cetera. But Adam can speak to his role as well.
Yeah, I mean, ostensibly, yeah, I am the GM, and at the same time, Andy and I have both been here for a long, long time. I think this is the 22nd year for me, and Andy, is it 17 for you then? Does that sound right?
Almost, yeah, like 16 and change.
Something like that. So we've all had a lot of different roles here. I think I've done just about everything at one point or another in that time. But Andy and I tend to divide the majority of the acoustic inventory you see here, boutique or otherwise, in terms of responsibility, is sort of divided between us. I do pretty much the calling stuff. Andy heads up the Martin stuff, and then everything else we kind of just divide up between us. With Andy definitely spearheading the more vintage side of things. I focus slightly on the newer stuff.
Yeah, you guys have like such a interesting store. Usually, I mean, maybe it's a testament to Joe's vision, but sometimes with stores, there's like the old figurehead is the only one who shows up on videos or on press things, or there's the young guy who's good on camera because the old guy's not. But like, I feel like we're over the course of many years, like there are many faces of the Music Emporium, including what you're doing, Andy, with like Lindsay on, performance wise. Like it's really cool to see all of the people.
I know it is really cool. And man, I lament Stu's passing one week, if for no other reason than it would be great to him here now to do that video of like Z wrote the Music Emporium marketing script, because that's what we need Stu. That's all that we need Stu for, is just to get him on camera. But no, he was never one to sort of want to be involved in any of that stuff. But man, about a character and a personality, he would have been. I think he would have gotten a kick out of what's happening right now, and it would be great to continue to have had him there as just one of those voices of wisdom. Who are those guys are kind of fading out of the scene, and it's tragic. We all loved Stu, got a kick out of his personality, and I think he would be really, really pleased with what's happening at the store right now. So you're right. The torch has been passed, and we got a lot of people who are, great personalities, good on camera now, and everybody's, wanting to pitch in more on that front. I think Joe included. Joe's a little bit, reserved when it comes to that stuff and takes a back seat, but I think you might see more of him out there in the near future.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What is currently, because you guys, I mean, you're talking about Stu Cohen, the Music Emporium's roots as a mostly acoustic folk leaning store for years. Now you guys carry Collings and Grez guitars and all these cool electrics and pedals and everything. Like, what right now is hot? What is selling great? And where are you putting your energy as we, look to the rest of 2026 in terms of like buying trends?
Ooh, big question.
Yeah.
I think we've got stuff that has, lines like Collings and Martin that continue to just perform so well for us year in, year out as like core foundational things that really don't have a lot of variance with us. I think, I'll let Andy jump in here in a sec too, but I think newer things that have done really well for us, definitely the Atkin guitars out of England.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, those have been incredibly popular. They're in a price point that, for the most part, sits just below the boutique market, but a little bit above where maybe a standard series Martin or something like that would price. And they're just building awesome sounding guitars, cool relic finishes. We're not a new Gibson dealer. They do a lot of great Gibson style models. They kind of slot into that niche really nicely for us. But both online and in store, I'd say customer response to that line in particular has been noticeably really apparent over the last couple years. And then we've got things go. I don't know. Froggy Bottom has been. I feel like every Froggy we get has been out of here, and like 1 second later, they've had a big change over there in terms of their leadership and their restructuring. So I love seeing them coming out of the gate with some new people and some renewed enthusiasm, and also seeing their guitars have been largely great for, and relatively unchanged for the last 20, 30 years or so. But I can say just doing the ordering and kind of looking at what's going on with them, those seem like we're just perpetually sold out of them for whatever reason. So, Andy, you want to jump in on some others maybe?
Yeah, sure. Just to, kind of double down on what Adam said about Atkins. I can't recall another line in the last 50 years for me personally that's been so exciting as far as new guitars are concerned. I love the guys that work there too. I listened to the pod that you did with Alistair, and I think it came through really well there. Like he's, those guys are as unpretentious as it gets in the guitar business, which is fantastic. They're great collaborators when it comes to ordering stuff. They're sort of willing to just try thing, which is cool. I'm not saying that we're going to be ordering a lot of Sonic Blue Atkin ups with the matching headstock and a guard or something like that. But we're working up to it. We're working up to that. I love the instruments. Bottom line, I love the instruments. They're super, super open sounding, lightweight and responsive, which, for a new guitar, that's a really, really hard thing to do. And have the guitar also feel like it's really strong and substantial and not underbuilt and, frankly speaking, worth the money that's being paid for it. So Atkins have been great. I know that we're all really excited about those. And that I would say, vintage stuff. I do want to step back and give a lot of credit to both Elliot and Dan King, who work here at the store, who are, the kind of chief architects of the electric stuff that we have here in the store. And both those guys deserve a lot of credit for all the glitz and glamour that ends up on the website. But the vintage stuff, Dan handles all the vintage electric stuff, and he and I collaborate on that inventory kind of writ large. And we've definitely made more of a concerted push to get a little bit more back into that sphere over the last few years. The Emporium was nothing but vintage instruments when it started. And, Stu and Jim and Eric Schoenberg and Joe, really interested in vintage instruments too, acoustic specifically, but everything. This as a real heritage, as being a landmark destination for curated inventory. And we're really trying to revive that and put a brighter spotlight on it than maybe there has over the last 10 years or something. That's worked really well. A lot of inventory is finding its way to us because of what our website and YouTube channel are doing for it. And no complaints from us. We're all really excited about that and looking forward to continuing that push.
That's really cool. Going back to Atkin, I mean, you guys are probably inundated with boutique makers who would love nothing more than for you to hype their product and sell it in your store. And you probably, I imagine, have to be extremely selective and probably have those hard conversations, just like I do sometimes with artists who want to be on this podcast or in the magazine, where you're like, sorry, I can't do it right now. Was it a hard decision to become an Atkin dealer? Because they are kind of this, like, they're from Europe. They're not a known entity. They're making guitars that from 10 feet away look like many of the other guitars on your wall. Like, was that a hard leap of faith?
You should ask Alistair Atkin.
That's a good question. Yeah. They reached out to us, and I think that happened to coincide with a trip that Joe was taking to England. And so he was actually able to meet Alistair and check out the guitars. And I know he came back from that really enthused. And it's always a leap of faith with any new brand. I mean, there's stuff like, and I'm sure you feel the same way, like there's stuff we love that we try and it doesn't sell.
Sure.
And there's stuff that we sometimes get and we're like, it's good. And then it's like, wow, look at the response to this. But we like the Atkins stuff from, I think from day one. I mean, we were all like excited about what they were doing. And I think the magic is that I think the customer response was equally enthusiastic. One of the things about having a brick and mortar location is people coming in and being able to turn them on to something new. That element of discovery when you kind of come into the store, and the Atkins stuff has been phenomenal for that, for just somebody taking one off the wall and saying like, holy cow, this sounds great. And I wasn't expecting to buy a guitar today, but I'm going to take this with me when I head out. So I don't know. It's always a leap of faith, but it wasn't a hard decision to give them a shot.
And is it safe to say that, like, because you do see these customers, they're not just an order on their website all the time. Froggy Bottom's been around forever. As you said, their design aesthetic hasn't changed a lot. It's been tried and true and very, very small batch. Is an Atkin owner tend to be younger than like a Froggy Bottom owner if they're both flying off the shelves?
Geez, that's a good question. I don't know. I don't know that they tend to be younger. I do think there's a big price point difference, between where those guitars are. So I think the market for an Atkin is just going to be wider by virtue of what it is. I still see, as we get older, the definition of what constitutes younger seems to be a consistently moving line. But I do see, I do see I still youngest people still buying Froggy Bottoms, but as you hinted at, I think just the quantity of Atkins built versus Froggy built. I don't know what their Froggy annual output currently is, but I'm sure it's less than 100 guitars, somewhere in that vicinity. So there's just going to be more. The Atkins are going to be more accessible just by virtue of how many options there are and how many price points. But there are a lot of younger people interested in them, and there's also older people who've had vintage stuff and all sorts of guitars who were just like, "Oh, this is really cool. I can't believe this is a new instrument." So
yeah, the definition of younger is however old you are at that moment.
Exactly. I'm like, oh, it's just a young man. He's a couple years younger than me.
A whippersnapper.
Yeah. Just a young whippersnapper. Totally.
Well, before we talk about the summit, because you guys are, I'm not blowing smoke. Like, a lot of stores look to you as sort of, one of the dealers to emulate. Can you pull back the curtain a little bit and tell me, like, on the marketing front of guitars, obviously you're trying to ramp up your vintage inventory. You said that, but like, where are you guys? What are the big pushes for Music Emporium for the rest of the year in terms of getting the word out on guitars and your story?
Ironically, I think our biggest concerted push this is going to be on a local level. Our website is doing a really good job for us, and it's not like that's automatic. That's a team effort, but Elliot again deserves a ton of for the end result that you see at themusicemporium.com. But the SEO alone is doing a good job for us in the broader market. I think you would be amazed how many people still come into the store, and we do get a lot of foot traffic in our retail showroom. And I think that's, from what I hear talking to other people around the industry, that's something that maybe sets us apart. Our store is fairly busy on a regular basis, and you would be shocked. I think you would be shocked anyway, how many people come into the store from the Metro Boston area and say something like, I've been living here 35 years and I never knew you guys were here. And we're like, how is that possible? But again, we don't do like any advertising. The one, quote unquote, we've run pretty consistently for at least long as Adam and I have been here is an underwrite we do with WBUR, which ends our ad on a lot of syndicated NPR stations. So yeah, you might a Music Emporium spot on Fresh Air if in Michigan or California or something, and that's done well for us. We get calls all the time, people saying like, yeah, I live in Minnesota and I just heard your ad on NPR and that sounds like a good guitar shop. I'll call them. And it happened a lot. But yeah, we hear all the time from people in our own neck of the woods, like, can't believe I never heard of this place. I just called a guitar store near me and I saw these pictures and I've never been in there before. And I have a Martin and a Fender and a Gibson and whatever else. And oh my God, they have callings. I always wanted to try one. So we're like, how can there be this many people just never done that? So I think our biggest push here is going to be on a local level.
That's cool. I mean, I understand completely because 21 years into it, I'm still publishing the new guitar magazine that people are like, I didn't know this existed. And so, yeah, the guitar market is very hard to penetrate, it turns out.
Yeah,
exactly. We sympathize.
To expand upon that a little bit, does that mean more like in-person events and having more brands kind of like be at the Music Emporium or kind of mini concerts or however you want to do it?
Yeah. I mean, we've been trying to do more of that. I mean, also just because we love doing that stuff too. I mean, we had a number of events last year in the store and also tied into kind of what we're really trying to do more of this year is just those type of events. We've also got a space that we've taken that's a few doors from our regular retail space that is full of amps and electric guitars, which has sort of become an auxiliary space. So also highlighting that space and getting people used to that. So, sometimes you've got a guy in here playing a vintage D18 and somebody wants to crank an amp, and it's like, this is not our we have a lot of guitars in here, but the footprint's not huge in and of itself. So we have this other space. And one of the things is also just, it gives us the ability to just have more events. And so hopefully you'll be hearing more on that front as the year goes on, but all with the goal of kind of just, building more awareness, giving people more reason to kind of come in and, build that kind of store community and get on people's radar. To Andy's point, I mean, some people come in like that. It's like 3 times a week someone comes in. It's just like, wow, this is amazing. Or I always drive by and I've never come in. Look at all these guitars in here. And I'm like, we've been in business, like we're going to be coming up on our 60th year in a couple of years. It's like, so we're just outside of Boston, but we're so close. So I think anything we can do to kind of build that awareness, we're on board for.
I think you need one of those inflatable dancing guys, like in front of the Jiffy Lube, like the 30-foot tall things.
We've talked about it. Yeah. We get one of those wacky inflatable arm guys out there.
Yep.
Is the second space one where it's kind of like closed and an employee will walk you over there, or is it just kind of like an extension of the store with staff already there and it's open to the public?
Great question. At the moment, it is closed off, and we'll just kind of walk you over there. And if you're in that, it's sort of let's say appointment, but it's a slightly more private space. But the goal, again, I think over time is if we can get enough foot traffic going in that direction too, to just have it be open. So we're kind of working into that, and we're busting at the seams a little bit here and just trying to figure out how to expand what we do and give people have that option for kind of a slightly more personal experience, or have that option to really crank an amp if you want to, and not feel like you're in the middle of a showroom with other acoustic players, or everyone's kind of fighting for sonic space in here.
Yeah. I love that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Is the goal to eventually take over those businesses that are between you and that second spot and just own the block?
That would be phenomenal. We could probably fill them all with something. We expand our showroom, have a private space, have a separate rock and repair shop, have storage. So I think we're just going to try and outlast everybody and see if we can just slowly do a takeover.
I mean, it seems to be a good strategy.
Yeah. Boston's a great location, but unlike, similar to, I imagine, many cities, finding the right footprint, the right size, the right real estate, the right location it's a challenging thing out here. So we're trying to expand where we can, and we'll see what happens.
Cool. Well, the main reason, or one of the many reasons I wanted to talk to you today, is because we throw this guitar event in Chicago every August, the Fretboard Summit. And one of the interesting byproducts of it has been that a lot of, it's meant for Fretboard Journal readers and guitar fanatics and your customers. But one of the many interesting byproducts has been a lot of dealers, including you guys, come to it and use it however you want to, either for fun or like a little adjunct to NAMM, or it is kind of a way to make FaceTime with brands or make content or whatever. And first off, thank you guys for coming. It means the world to me that you make the trek out to Chicago. Secondly,
we love coming.
It's a highlight of the year.
Secondly, we've been talking about ways to partner up, and we've been brainstorming, and we've decided to launch the first ever we're calling it the Pay It Forward program, where you guys are sponsoring the summit with the explicit reason of letting younger people and people who maybe couldn't afford the registration to come in. And it's super cool. And I just want to, first off, thank you for that. It's really generous of you guys. What do you think? I mean, I want to get your take on the summit, because whenever I ask people, how would you describe this weekend? It's sort of different. Everybody's got a different definition of what they take away from it.
I mean, it's definitely a highlight, as I just said, for me. I think the other guys who have from the shop would probably say the same thing. And, on a level, I remember the first time we went there, we didn't go to any of the real early ones that were out on the West. But But when we went to the first one in Chicago, I think everybody was sort of like, oh yeah, like this is what it's supposed to be all along. Because NAMM for a shop like the Music Emporium can be a little bit on the overwhelming side, and maybe a little bit difficult to feel like, anything real substantive is getting done, or the relationships aren't being, nurtured the way that you would want them to be, just because of the environment. And the summit is like all of the chatter is gone, and you've just distilled it down to only the stuff that is really important and the stuff that you care about. In addition to just being really fun and being in a great location and having great music and just being, a great city in a great section of the country where there's, let's be real about it, a lot more good places to eat than there are around our neck of the woods.
And in Anaheim.
Yes. And in Anaheim. But I think, for me, it's not only is it a highlight of the year, but it's just like I was saying a minute ago, and Adam can, I'm sure, give another opinion too, but it's that distinction of everything that you care about in this industry is, for one, taken off of Instagram and just put into reality right in front of you. And it's just that reality that I think we're all longing for more and more these days.
Yeah. Joe and I, we did NAMM many years in a row, and then we kind of stopped going. COVID kind of interrupted that, and then we got out of the habit, and we couldn't quite bring ourselves to muster up the energy to go back and do it. And I think when the Fretboard Summit came, but we're kind of missing that community at the same time. And I think to Andy's point, getting to go to the Fretboard Summit and touch base with everybody and see our friends, across the industry. And also, one of the cool things is just walking around, and we get to meet a lot of customers who just come up and introduce themselves that, have bought guitars we've spoken to on the phone or by email, but we've never actually met in person, because there's so many different kinds of people at this show, which is, again, not really true of the NAMM show, which is more of just an industry show, that it's become this awesome hub of retailers like ourselves, and manufacturers, and just players, and guitar enthusiasts, and consumers. And I think we love that aspect of it. I can think of a couple people who've come in recently, and they're the kind of people going to guitar camps and super into this. And I'm like, you should check out the summit. You would love it. So, it's a great, that kind of community, I think, it's a small industry. I think when you get down to it, and everyone sort of knows each other and is kind of interested in what everybody's doing. And I think to have a space where you can, to Andy's point, do all that without the chatter, feeling like you're trapped in the world's largest guitar center, which is kind of what NAMM feels like a lot of the time. You can play guitar, you can hear what it sounds like, you can have a conversation that's not at shouting volume. So we look forward to doing it every year, and I think finding a way to kind of support what you guys do and further that was just a complete no-brainer for us.
I really appreciate it. I mean, through this, and I'll include a link to the application in the notes for this podcast, but through this, 10 people from hopefully a variety of backgrounds will be able to come. And yes, it's a guitar show. People come and, often buy high value guitars from these luthiers and brands that are exhibiting. But as you guys outlined, I think the real magic of it is it is a quieter space where you get this sort of very condensed brain trust and all the authorities such as yourself there, and music lovers, and people connect. And that to me is just far more powerful than, the transaction of buying something. So totally. I encourage anybody listening to this, and I know our podcast tends to skew younger than our magazine. If you, are thinking about a life in guitar repair, or joining, signing up for Roberto Venn, or you're a performance artist and you just kind of want to get inspired by some new voices and new faces, this is a great opportunity to kind of meet all the people you've heard about on this podcast or read about in the magazine or just kind of followed on YouTube. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, Absolutely.
It is 100%. I was really, both last year specifically to see the number of people there who were exhibiting guitars, pedals, amps, or what they had. But it's honestly, it's shocking to see how many people are out there making incredible products. I met a whose name is David Vitas, I think, on the last day we were there, guitar builder from New Zealand, who's making like Gibson style guitars out of all native New Zealand hardwoods, none of which I'd ever heard of before. I was like, oh, he's got a Cowrie guitar, and he was like, Cowrie, yeah, whatever. No, you have to check out these other like 10-tone woods that you never heard of before. And that guy's instruments were absolutely amazing. I think Chicago Music Exchange bought them at the show and had them there soon thereafter. But he was, just one that I met on the last day, and I could, there were 10 others. So it was really cool and heartening to see the number of young people who are there with like incredible products. When you pick them up and you're like, I have no idea how and make stuff this cool, and the whole world doesn't know about them.
Yeah, the global contingent that has been showing up has been pretty amazing, and David's actually in our new issue of the magazine because his story is so one of a kind, and his guitars are so cool. I mean, like you said, like those are woods that no one talks about here,
right?
Yeah, and so I'm super grateful that you guys are doing this. I think it's going to just add to the summit cocktail party stew of like a diverse crowd and younger people. I know our mutual friends at Collings are bringing Antoine Boyer to the summit this year, which I'm super excited about, and we'll have a lot of other surprise announcements. But yeah, the lineup of builders and brands coming is like all-time high, and so I guess there's a need for this crazy guitar weekend that's kind of hard for me to describe in Chicago because they keep coming.
There's totally a need. Yeah, I think. I mean, I hope there's a need, because if there's not a need, then I think we're both in trouble, or we're all in trouble. But yeah, it's a great event, and for anyone listening who has been on the fence, I couldn't recommend more going if you're curious about this stuff. I mean, I think. I think one of the keys to the success, at least of our business, has just been the people here remain very curious about what's next, what's new, what haven't I seen before, what do we get fired up about, and I don't know. I think the day we stop being curious about that stuff is probably the day we cease to be very relevant, maybe as a business, or maybe that's the day we're officially old. I don't know, but it's a great thing to do. I mean, you can, like you said, talk to all these people, meet people you haven't met before, get exposed to new instruments, new ideas, and it's a great few days.
Yeah. Andy, what's going on the music performance front for you?
A lot right now, which is nice because like everybody else, when you start kids, there's like an amazing relationship between the growth of your kids and the acceleration of your performance endeavors. That's definitely happened a lot over the last 10 years. You mentioned Lindsay a few minutes ago, who is a friend of both of ours, who used to work at Emporium for a while and then worked at Ag and Carter Vintage, and is back in the Boston area. She's a fantastic musician, in addition to talents as a guitar marketer and seller. She plays guitar and bouzouki and is a singer. And her roots are really like Irish and Celtic music community in Boston. So she moved back to kind of like be a stronger part of that again. We've known each other for a long time and played a lot informally. And I think we just have very, very similar tastes in music, and our styles are kind of similar too. And it just seemed like a natural kind of thing. Like it's one of those, you have a music friend who you play with a lot, like sort of informally, and you're like, I like what you do. Do you like what I do? It sort of seems that way. And then when they're like, yeah, I do, you're like, oh yeah, okay, here it is. We got to strike while it is hot. So we decided like, yeah, let's actually try to arrange some we like and see if like more than two people about it. And so we've been playing or maybe a little bit more formally for the last year and change. And a little actually just made an EP last week. Just did the tracking. Friend Zach Hickman. I don't know if you know Zach or have ever heard his name. People around Boston know Zach as the baker for Josh Ritter and Ray LaMontagne, who he also does musical direction for. But Zach is an amazing multi-instrumentalist and musician, producer, and whatever. The guy is one of the most talented I've ever met. Also bought a Gigantos that was like falling apart in Massachusetts and converted the whole third floor to a really great recording studio. Where our friend Mark Irelli just made his new record, and Lindsay and I did all the tracking for us up there with Zach. And hopefully in another couple months we'll have a finished product out there, and then see where it goes.
So cool. What does a guy who works at a guitar store every day of the week take? What's like the main guitar you use on a recording session?
I use the only one that I ever want to play, which is my number one. It's a 1941 Martin D18. I have a bunch of guitars like every nerd who works in this business does. But that one is very, very special to me for a number of reasons. I known that guitar just sort of in a general sense for many years. It used to belong to a friend of mine. It's kind of a patron of the bluegrass here in the Boston area, and he used to joke with me the time that he owned it. He's like, "Man, I might not have this forever, and I'd love for you to have it one." And I was always like, "I'd like to have it one day." What exactly are we talking about here? And a couple of years ago, he did that. It was time for him to move it on, and he made a very generous concession, I'll just be frank, to allow me to own it. And I'm really, really grateful to him. I will be forever. And that guitar is just, it ticks every box that I would ever want a guitar to tick. And it's, the one for me that has gotten me to that point where I play lots of guitars, as you probably imagine, almost all of them. I just end up thinking like, yeah, it's cool. It's not as good as mine. But if anybody wants, give me a pre-war D28 just to go with it, it's not like I'm going to turn that one down or anything. But, that Lindsay and I just did with Zach was the first time to use that guitar in like a real studio environment, other than just like YouTube videos or a demo recording. With Zach's help and engineering, I was able to really use it, really hear what it could do. I used that on all of on the EP, except for one where I played an old a Kalamazoo KG, I think it's a KG-1 archtop. Only because there was one song where I wanted something that did a little bit bad, for lack of a description. That Martin is just like, it's every cliche that you could say about an old D18. It sounds good. And hearing it in that like crystallized studio environment where you're just listening through headphones and hearing every little single nuance. There was one song where I was just like, it almost sounds too good. I need something that doesn't sound good. And I have an old Kalamazoo archtop that is literally the guitar that I just hanging on the wall at my house. And I did actually use that on one song.
Oh, sometimes you need the non-perfect guitar, and often it comes from Kalamazoo, Michigan.
That's right.
Yep. Yeah. Our mutual friend Mark Stepman is going to be doing a workshop at the summit with a bunch of L-style oddball Gibson Trujos and all the weirdo things. So
nice.
Looking forward to that. So
cool.
Yeah, and that brings us back to vintage guitars, and you guys, probably putting the ask out there if anyone has vintage guitars that they want to part ways with. Probably should call you guys, right?
Definitely.
They should absolutely call.
After we've been singing their praises for the last 10 minutes. If you're tired of it, yeah.
Yeah.
You guys are great. I can't thank you enough. I can't wait to see you in Chicago if I don't see you sooner. I hope this Boston Marathon weekend that we're talking on is, I hope some people run into the store. I hope you have some good traffic. And
I think they might be off the route if they're coming in, but good for us. Maybe
have
bad
the
for their
tiny
marathon
little
time.
cups of Gatorade for them, just in case.
Yeah. We'll put them outside with the wacky inflatable arm guy.
If anyone gets 10 miles in and decides that the marathon actually wasn't a good idea, just run over to the store.
You could just rope off some of the parking lot and not have a 5K, maybe like a 50-foot race for guitar collectors who tend to be a little more out of shape, generally speaking.
Good point.
All right, guys. I can't thank you enough, and I'm super excited we're doing this. Hopefully the first of many. And thanks for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Jason.
All right, that was my conversation with Adam and Andy from the Music Emporium. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope to see a whole bunch of you at the Fretboard Summit. Fretboardsummit.org is how you can register. Come see both of these individuals and so many other great retailers and brands who are part of our community. Meet them, pick their brains, ask them questions, maybe buy a guitar. Who knows? It's a great weekend, and I would love to see you there. Till next time.